All right. So, hi, everyone, and thanks for joining D2C Breakdowns again. And I'm here today with Pooja Parikh, and she's the Chief Operating Officer at Andie Swim, which is a great and well-known brand for women's swimming apparel. And hi, Pooja. Thanks for being here. Let's start here.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Alex.
Cool. So, Pooja, in this specific podcast, D2C Breakdowns, we usually talk about the brand story, and we have personal stories about the founders, the CEO, OOs, the C-level, and all the other people that are helping these brands live, grow, and become successful. And so I think a good starting point will be to hear a little bit about your story and how did you get to e-commerce? What did you like about it? Maybe, sometimes people accidentally get to e-commerce, sometimes people actually aiming to get to e-commerce. So I would be happy to hear that story before we get into the Andie Swim things.
Yeah, I would say I fall more in the accidentally falling into the e-commerce realm. My background prior to my working career, I was studying to become a doctor. I was pre-med in school. That was sort of always the track that I was intending on pursuing. I was also a music major, did not have any, intention of pursuing that degree. But around the time of graduation, I was having, I guess, like a personal crisis of, I don't really want to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure it out. And so I would say I sort of just fell into this world of ecomm and very lucky to fall into the world of ecomm. I started more in traditional apparel. So with Club Monaco and which was part of the Ralph Lauren family. So working more in the traditional apparel space, store planning, things like that, before making my way towards an e-commerce company. But I would say throughout sort of the journey, I've never liked a ton of structure. I've always been someone that's like, give me a problem, I want to figure it out, and I don't want the same problem to come up next month. I want a new problem to figure out and solve. And I would say like right around this time is when the big D2C startup boom was happening.
What year specifically then? What year are you mentioning in terms of D2C?
Probably like 2018.
2020? 2018.
Yeah, like 2018. Like 2017, 2018 is really around the time that this was coming up for me. And, at that time, I was still pretty young, still sort of newly out of college, a couple of years of work experience under my belt. And at the time, I remember seeing these like billboards in Soho from Glossier. And I was like, this is so cool. And I love the aesthetic. And I want to work for a company and a brand that like, I love the product. I am the consumer. I love the messaging. So I kind of just applied to a role. I just went on their site, looked for any open roles that there were, and I was fortunate enough to find something that really aligned with my background and was with the company for 4 years and learned so much, scaling from, I joined them at like Series A, Series B stage, and then left the company when they had closed their Series E. So seen a tremendous amount of growth for them through the COVID sort of world. And that was a lot of curveballs over time. And I think the thing that I found that I loved the most was, again, just no 2 days were the same. You are just constantly tackling different problems. And so I found myself aligning with, where can I go? Where can I work that is a place that I can continue to fall into this world of like, no 2 days are the same, working in different areas of the business, working in different projects all the time. That's how I found Andie, and I joined Andie back in 2021. So it's been about 4 years with the company, and it's a small team, but a small but mighty team, I'll say. We carry a lot of weight across the board, and I know I personally wear a lot of different hats, but every single person on the team does. So if you look at even like the titles of people's jobs at Andie, so many people are like this and this, or I do multiple things. And it, we're such a very, very close team, which is amazing because with a small team, you all need to get along really well. But everyone works so well together and is so deeply involved in projects outside of their direct area of expertise. So it's not just me, but like the fact that that sort of is like part of our core brand DNA to get involved, to bring up ideas, and to continue moving this company forward with innovation. It's a lot of fun. So again, going back to your original question of how I landed in ecom, it sort of just happened, and it's
I
an
mean,
awesome place
I
to
wouldn't
be.
say that. I mean, you looked for it, you wanted it, and you got
Yes,
it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted it. Yeah.
you didn't know. Probably you didn't know about it ahead of time when you were studying, but once you realized, okay, you saw the banner there, and you said, okay, this is this is where my passion is, or potentially my passion can be there. And
Yeah.
when you were at Glossier, was it on the e-commerce side, on the retail side?
Yeah, so Glossier, I mean, they're very much known, at least at the time I was there, it was D2C only with a really heavy retail
Mhm.
presence. But at that time, they had not yet expanded into the wholesale channels. And I think just over the last 2 years, they expanded.
Okay, so that's really your e-commerce, like your e-commerce journey starts there, not the retail, but specifically the e-commerce experience.
Yeah.
Got it. And you're getting into operations there? Like most of your work is around operations, merchandising, or
Yeah.
how it
So
looks like?
my my background was primarily in like demand planning and inventory management. So it's a lot of crossover of operations, but also there's like financial elements of it, but there's also merchandising elements of it. So it sort of sits in the middle of these different pillars of bringing the like art of design and merchandising into sort of the science of financial planning and operations. And planning sort of sat at the middle of that because you're taking into consideration, on the merchandising and the design side and the product development side and the creative side, how are we bringing this product to life? Who are we marketing it to? How are we marketing it? Are we going really big behind this product with huge campaigns, or is it a product extension of some kind? And so being able to understand that and work really closely with the creative teams and the marketing teams and the merchandising teams on those aspects to then say, this is what it could contribute. This is what it can do to elevate the brand, or this is how much revenue it could generate, or this is how it might impact our sales forecasts. That sort of all ties together. So my background was primarily in that space before I started expanding outside of planning.
It's always funny because I talk to D2C brands every day as part of Amplify, and doesn't matter how big is the company. It's always about 5 to 10 people. Even like the biggest brands, they always, sometimes it's more, but usually it's like 5 to 10 people who run the show of D2C of e-commerce. And it's really fascinating because, for if we take, for example, SaaS, where I'm coming from, right? Usually you have like big departments, yes, you have bootstrapping and smaller companies. We're a smaller company, but still you have a lot of people. You need a lot of people in many departments to build a product and, to ship it, to market it, and to sell it. And in e-commerce, sometimes it's like 2, 3 people and they can do a ton. And what's interesting about what you're saying is that it requires, for example, from a COO, it requires to be also on the visual side of things, like the merchandising side of things, right? How do we market it, sell it, ADC? And how do we plan the financial, more, let's call it technical sides, right? Financial side of it, to make sure that we're not only beautifully visually showing this, but also making some profit or at least revenue out of it, right? So it's like a mix. You don't see it in many roles, that you have the visual side and the technical side, because usually people that are good with the visual side, they're not very good at the technical side, and vice versa. And here you're required, as far as I understand from you, you're required to do both and be good at both of them. How do you learn
Yeah.
these skills, or you need to come with these skills from home?
I mean, a lot of it is like a lot of it also does come down to data, right? Like at the end of the day, we have a history of selling. We know we have a history of launches. We have a history of products. How have those things done, and how have those come to market? And how can that then inform what's coming next. So a lot of it is rooted in data and understanding the trends of what's happened in the past. But, I rely so heavily on our design and merchandising teams in terms of informing, here's what market trends are showing. Here's what runway is showing. As we're looking at planning out our 2026 collections right now, they'll share insights of, we're seeing this print really prominently, or this color is coming up across basically every runway show that's happening. So it's taking them and trusting also the team that you have in place to help inform some of those decisions, and working together to then craft a story that makes sense for your customer and sense for, the data that you've seen before, while also introducing them and engaging them and exciting them with what's relevant in the market to continue being part of the conversation. And so paying attention to those trends is incredibly important.
So that's actually my next question, because it's a little bit of a fun question, right? How much of, let's say for Andie Swim, we'll get to Andie Swim in a second, even for Andie Swim, right? When you're running a brand, how much of it is innovation and what the agenda that you have, right? I have this vision that swimwear should look like this and this and that because we believe in ABC, versus looking at the market, competition, obviously, as you said, colors, right? What's not right? Like, how do you know where's the balance of I want to bring something new versus I need to be aligned with what people want and what are the trends out there? And it's a tricky question, right? Where do you want to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what
It's
works?
it's a
What will
tricky
work?
Yeah. It's a great question. It's a tricky question. And it's also one that I would say isn't the same. Like, I wouldn't have the same answer every year. What I would say is that in order to build a lasting brand, you need to have sort of this like core baseline that you stick
Signature.
to. Yeah, you need a signature, right? You need something that's recognizable, that if, we have this one swimsuit called the Malibu. It has snaps down the middle. You don't really see it in the market. And it is so authentically recognizable as Andie. You don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose that recognizability and signature suit. We have a few core icon suits, we call them, and we're never going to stray from those core icon suits and what Andie is known for. We're never going to stray from and in a way that we're going to alienate the customers who have shopped with us since the beginning. We need to make sure that our brand is still relevant to them and for them, and that we're innovating in a way that makes sense for our core consumer. I think there are a lot of ways to innovate, whether it's innovating on how you reach those people, or of course, like colors and textures and things and iterations of our core icon product, but in a way that still makes sense for them and not going too outlandish with what you're testing. We think about this a lot in terms of like, even as something as small as like, a marketing campaign and like how we're allocating budgets within Meta, for example. Most of it is going to be the types of campaigns that work, that resonate, the types of messaging, the types of creative, the audiences that continue to come back to you. But we're always testing. Like, let's say 10% of our budget is always a test budget. Let's try this angle. Let's try this creator content. Let's try this different approach, or maybe let's try this different channel and allocate some budget to that and see what happens. And so I would say like 10% is always, always, always going to be allocated to continuously testing, because that's how you discover opportunities and white space in the market as well, and how to grasp a customer that you wouldn't otherwise be able to find if you weren't testing and if you weren't innovating. So it's very much like your primary focus has always got to be close to your brand DNA and your core values that you stand behind, but to play on top of that space in creative ways so that you stay fresh for your existing consumer base. And then in addition to that, allocating a small percentage to always testing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think it's correct not only for e-commerce, but in general. You always need to have like this 10 to 20% testing budget. And you know what? One of the things that we discuss a lot also on this podcast, but in general, is that in a world of a ton of noise and cheap competition that comes from different places, and everything can be copied very, very easily, now, especially with AI, it became even easier. And you're talking about, everybody knows about this specific style or signature of Andie, and it's correct it's right for every brand, not only for Andie. How do you keep yourself distinguished, right? Not only in terms of, everybody knows the logo or we have a customer base, obviously, but it can also drain over time if you're not maintaining it and making sure that you're on top of it. What do you do, right, as a COO, as someone who's responsible for the operation and making sure that the brand lasts and the brand grows, when you know that, okay, if you had a really, really nice product that you just, it came out last year, you had tons of sales, you know that other people, other brands, companies will try to copy you. They will try to come up with something similar, cheaper than yours, sometimes even, in a good quality. It's not always bad. How do you think about it? How do you protect
Yeah.
yourself against it, if at all, if it's possible at all?
I mean, at some points, you like what do they say? Imitation is like a form of flattery, right? Like it's a lot of it is an acknowledgement that Andie did it first and Andie did it best, and continuing to stand behind the quality product that we know we created. Oftentimes, when you're creating a cheaper product, people know this stuff. Obviously, our swimsuits are priced at a level where, not everyone is going to come and buy a $125 swimsuit or $150 swimsuit. And so naturally there are going to be versions of that enter the marketplace because that's not entirely accessible for everyone. But and in that case, it makes a lot of sense that you're going to see that design be replicated in many ways. But this is just something the design world has seen since the beginning of time. Trends come back, brands sort of copy each other, feed off one another. And it's just a matter of making sure that you're staying ahead of the curve, right? So if last year's suit, we think everyone's going to copy for this year, what is our this year's suit that we know they're going to want to copy next year? And making sure you're always one step ahead in the game, which is where the sort of trend forecasting and understanding what the market is gravitating towards, consistently maintaining freshness in assortment in terms of like how you convey the products to your customers. For example, we have some really simple swimsuits on our website. There are probably like 100 versions of some of these swimsuits that are out there with slight differences, but our standout qualities are that we use recycled materials to create all over swim, and they're still very long lasting. The fit is unparalleled, and we use thousands of different data points to perfect our fit. We even have video technology on our website, that shows different angles and how it fits on different types of models, and how we have different fit options. If you're classic torso versus long torso, if you want different coverage options. And it's also about how you approach, how you give your customers information to make them feel most confident in purchasing that item from you, and making them feel really confident in the quality of the item that they're purchasing, and that they know they're getting a long-lasting item from a company that has good values. So it's all it's always hard. It's hard to stay unique in the marketplace. There's hundreds of new brands popping up every month, it feels like. And it's just, again, staying true to that core brand DNA, not losing yourself in the noise, and just going after what you really believe in and sticking to it.
Which actually brings me to the next question, which I think won't be a surprise for you, because when you have so many brands, right, out there that are selling pretty much, within the same industry vertical, from your perspective, as Andie, as COO of Andie, as someone who's been here for many years now, how do you prioritize, or not prioritizing, the experience of shopping on Andie versus the product itself? Because it feels like there are two products now. One product is the product itself, and the other product is the experience of purchasing the original product. And it feels like sometimes, at least what we see, is that the experience is even more important than the product itself, because it's, at least in my opinion, it's much harder to replicate the shopping experience if it's really neat and good, and the unwrapping and all of that, versus the product itself. Do you feel the same, or you have any interesting data or insights to share with us about this?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the core reasons Andie was founded was because swimwear shopping is really hard if you're a woman. If you're a man, it's very easy. But
Very
if
easy
you're a
for us.
woman,
Like,
but
this size, that's it. I like this
yeah,
design.
yeah, you can buy it on anywhere, and you're gonna have a good swimsuit if you're a man. But that is not the case for women. And finding your perfect fitting swimsuit is incredibly difficult. And understanding where to go and where to look and what to look for and how do you filter to your preferences and shop that. Really hard to do, especially back in 2015, 2017 when Andie was originally founded. And for us, simplifying the swimwear shopping experience was really important. How do we give people the information that they need most to make an educated decision on their purchase, but without overwhelming them, without giving them too many options? So that the experience is a huge part. Otherwise, it's just, like you said, it's just another product. What doesn't matter? I think helping guide our consumers through the simplest shopping experience is super important to us. So like we've created a fit quiz on our website that, will take your preferences. Do you want this suit for something like you're playing beach volleyball, or are you lounging at the pool? Are you going on a girls' trip? Are you going on a honeymoon, a bachelor? Like what are you using this suit for? What are your preferences in this suit? Do you want something that's really compressive and like really holds you in? Or it doesn't really matter because you're just lounging at the pool? Do you want a full coverage, high support suit? Or do you want something that's on the, the cheekier side? So like helping just guide them to the right products through a simple quiz like that, where, you can answer those things off the top of your head. It takes 30 seconds to complete. Little wins like that make a huge difference because it takes some of the decision making out of the process for you, where you're going to get overwhelmed with the choice and all of that. And then you can sort of, if you're left to like the fun stuff of like, what color do I want in this suit? Or, like how many different suits do I want? Do I want all 4 suits that were recommended to me? All of those kinds of things. But the experience is everything. Giving people the information they need in a simple way, particularly for a category that can be as overwhelming and complicated as swim and like very personal, is like the most important piece of it.
You got it. So it's for you, it's like filtering as fast as possible your catalog per the occasion or the theme or the interest of the shopper.
Yeah.
I
and
need it
also
for
making
X.
sure. Yeah, exactly. And just like helping them get to that final stage of this is the right product for me as quickly and as simply as possible. And for us, I mean, we're still at a point where acquisition is like a larger piece of our total business than retention. And we're still very much in growth mode. But for us, we have so many people that are new to the brand and new to the Andie experience. So how do we get them, to the right place on our site to guide them through, here are bestsellers, here's what Andie is known for, here are the core principles that we really stand behind, and these are our top 4 styles that everyone buys, and making sure that journey for them is very simple, because their shopping behavior is still pretty different than the people who know Andie and who have shopped with us for years.
You talk about the returning customers versus the new ones that you're getting. So maybe let's talk a little bit about acquisition versus not only retention, right? Because I think there are 3 phases, right? Bringing them in, making sure that we make the shopping experience great, but also squeezing or increasing the AOV as much as possible, right? The average order size, because that's what we're here for. We need a very positive ROI at the end. And then the retention side, right? Bringing them back and making sure we're building some kind of a relationship. So on these 3 parts, acquisition, still the biggest thing. for you, right? Because you need to bring new eyeballs, new people, and constantly to make sure that the net new revenue is coming in, and you have more. You're increasing your database or your audience size. And then, can you tell us a little bit how you think about, like, okay, we brought them in. What do we expect from a first-time purchaser? Do we expect them to buy one white swimsuit? Two? Are you trying to get them to purchase two or more, or accessories or things like that if it's interesting for you? And what do you do post-purchase? Do you build some kind of a relationship with them? Do you have any kind of, I don't know, membership club, subscription? Like, how do you think about these three phases of your shopping
Yeah,
experience?
it's a great question. So in terms of getting the customers in the first place, the biggest part is like how are you standing out in the market? Like we've already said, the market is saturated. There's so many brands out there. So how are you standing out? And I think we do a really good job of that by selling the features of Andie. We have incredible imagery, incredible swimsuits, really leaning into the like lifestyle imagery that we have, the campaign shoots that we have. It draws people into our site because the imagery is so beautiful and so impactful. And so they want to learn more. They're like, I want to live this lifestyle. I want to, have this resort-like feeling that I see in this image. And so they come to our site.
And you're bringing them, just a question, you're bringing them to the specific product pages of these products, or you're bringing them to the general like homepage or some kind of a specific landing
It's
page?
usually a mix. In some cases, it'll be a specific product page. If we're advertising one of our like best-selling swimsuits, we'll send them directly to the product page. If we're advertising, a new collection just launched, maybe it'll go to that collection page. Sometimes we send traffic to the homepage, and these are some of the areas that we're consistently iterating on and testing, at least from like a digital ad side of thing. But yeah, so the journey might be different based on what they engage with. And those people, based on what they're engaging with, are interested in very different things. If they're engaging with the beautiful lifestyle imagery with our newest product, they want to see that new product. They want to go and explore, what else Andie has to offer, versus someone who is seeing an ad that is talking about, features of our best-selling suit in like a simple black. Maybe they just want to learn more about that one suit because they like that suit. Or maybe they just want to understand more around the background of the brand or the best sellers that we have. So in terms of what they're engaging with, they'll see success in different parts of the journey on our site. But once they've started engaging with our site, I think there's like a few things when we think about like the purchasing journey, especially given, swim is a very personal category. If it doesn't fit, you're returning it. If you don't like the color, you're returning it. If you don't like how it sits on your hips, or like, you don't like how the two-piece, the top is too small and the bottoms fit you, you're probably returning that suit. There are so many nuances to making sure swim is perfect for you that typically what we like to drive customers towards is try a couple of things. We accept returns. It's not like our swim is final sale, but the more that a customer is likely to buy from the beginning, the more likely they are going to keep something, versus if they buy one suit, it doesn't fit and they return it. So I'm always in team buy more, potentially retain more. But it also depends on like what suits they're buying. Like we have some suits that have way, way, way lower return rates, for example. But in order to retain the customer, the main thing is making sure that they're actually keeping something. And we have a really good return rate for, I would say, our category and the industry at large for an online apparel business. So it's not like a huge problem for us or anything like that, but always trying to get them to engage with more.
And how do you push
site.
them to get 2-3 pieces right away in order to increase your chances that one, they will keep? Like, are you doing something proactively, or you just see that, X% of your shoppers will pick 2-3 suits and swimsuits, and it is what it is?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like one or the other. Like sometimes when We have, like our pairs well with or cart upsell modules that can drive a lot of engagement with other suits or other similar swimsuits. So, this is recommended for you. We're actually working on some personalization updates with the website merchandising now. Our team is working on some of those things to help, if you bought this suit, then we'd like to guide you to also considering this item. A lot of it is also even afterwards, once they've actually purchased the suit, working in our email flows and saying, you might also like these styles. So it might be an after the fact thing, but you're still giving them the information in a way that's tailored based on their purchase. Sometimes it's in the, return and exchange journey, whether it's through our actual return portal and saying you can browse anything else similar to what you bought if you were unhappy with your original purchase, or we have a ton of people who will write into our customer experience team and they'll say, I bought this, I don't love it, I still want a suit, what would you recommend? So we like to think of our customer experience associates as like personal stylists a lot of times because, they'll say like, here are my measurements, these are my preferences, tell me what to get, and so
It's like in store, right? That you're getting to the sales assistant, like, what would you like?
And
it's like in a restaurant, like what would you pick, right, from the menu? I usually like this and this. It always works like that. Like it's the human logic. Like you always count on the person in front of you, right, to help you here. Okay, and they're just recommending you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like this is our primary storefront, and those are the closest things we have to, quote unquote, sales associate. But being able to have that conversation directly, one-on-one, makes a big difference for customers. And they really appreciate all the information and the input that they get when they do reach out directly. So it can vary in terms of how we're actually recommending more products to people. But usually through these various touch points, we're able to start curating what that experience looks like based on their purchase history.
Got it. What about accessories and other products to increase your average order value? Is that of a focus? Because many brands, for example, that we see 20-30% of the revenue comes, like you have always the hero products, what you said, like the best sellers, right? But then you have a couple of little things that look like just makes total sense to pick them up, and you can build a whole strategy around it. I don't know, maybe covers or something for the beach, something for the pool, like a very beautiful head, sunglasses. Like, do you think about these kind of things in your merchandising?
Absolutely. And we also acknowledge where, Andie is not going to be the expert in a lot of these categories and that we don't need to overcomplicate that journey for the consumer. So we often do cross-category merchandising and assortment planning by leveraging partner brands and wholesale as a channel or dropship as a channel. So we'll work with, we'll still look at like, what do we think our customer will like? What will she gravitate towards? What are the right price points for her? Where do we have a void in terms of, if she's building her beach bag and she's going on a trip, what are some of those essentials that she'll need, like you said? And so we partner with a few different brands across the board there, cover up, sunglasses, sunscreen, towels, footwear, accessories like hats and bags, just to make sure that, if she wants those items, that we're making it available to her. I would say Andie is unique in the sense that like 98% of her sales are swim. And you don't see that a lot from either like peer brands in this space or like just like single category brands in general to be so heavily in one category as a business. And a lot of brands lean on these additional categories as revenue drivers for the business. And not to say that we don't, but for us, it's a priority to make the shopping experience as seamless as possible for our consumer if she's looking for that.
That's the thing. I really liked when you said build your bag or beach bag, right? That's kind of the thing that I personally believe in a lot, and I see it a lot because we discussed experience versus, product. Everybody sells a product, better, worse, but the experience is selling the lifestyle, right? And obviously a question to you. My question is whether you think that maybe selling the experience of how do you go to the beach, how it looks like, how you look like, what is your style going to the beach or to the pool, doesn't matter. Maybe selling this instead of selling the swimsuit, maybe that's the next era of, in general, digital commerce, retail, because we see that, the more products you have, the more brands that you have, it becomes harder and harder to distinguish yourself. But if Andie Swim has some kind of a say, or as you said, you have very beautiful screenshot. I mean, what you're saying there, that I'm showing beautiful, unique lifestyle on social media, people are attracted to it. And when they're getting to my store, in my opinion, you need to kind of continue this. Here, okay, so here is the experience that you want to purchase. You didn't want to purchase a swimsuit. You wanted to purchase the experience. Did you think about how do you sell this experience? Like build your bag, build your day off from work with your friends, or a girls trip, right? Each one of these, it's a theme. Did you think about it like that? Because you already said, like, we're doing covers, we're doing sunglasses, creams, right? Maybe we should sell 4 different bags, each bag for a different, and each bag will have 4 products instead of just the swimsuit. So do you think
Yeah.
about these kind of things in your personalization?
We think about it all the time, and we also want to, in terms of the experience and in terms of, going again back to when Andie was founded and simplifying the shopping experience, we don't want it to be, we want to do it in a way that's not overwhelming, right? You're not coming to our site for the first time and you're seeing all of our swim and all of these other things. We still want to curate the experience. Like, can you imagine walking into a store and on one rack, there are swimsuits next to bags, next to towels, next to sunglasses, next to hats, all on that would never happen. And so we're treating our e-commerce store very similarly to that and making sure we can guide her through that journey. So whether, in our beautiful lifestyle shoots, if there are certain accessories that were used in that shoot, making sure that the swimsuit, when you're on the PDP of that swimsuit, there's a pair as well with that says you can also shop these other styles. So part of the personalization journey is also making sure that we can merchandise based on what, shop this look could be. And if you are someone who's gravitating towards buying that whole lifestyle, buying that whole package that we've advertised, that option is there for you. We've gone through versions of it and we've played around a lot with our pairs well with modules and, also complete your look modules and cart upsells. I would say we haven't quite mastered it, but that's part of also what we're doing with this merchandising turnaround on our website, is to make that aspect of shopping across categories a little bit more accessible without being overwhelming.
Yeah, it's definitely should be a layered model. I agree with you. If you just come right away and you show something that's much bigger than your initial intent right away, it can also remove some of the intent. That's very cool. Anything that you can share that you're doing post purchase that our listeners can learn from as well? Like, how do you sold your first swimsuit? How do you stay in touch? I believe there is no subscription model here, right? Like kind of a membership club or something like that. I don't know, smart emailing campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly stay in touch through, I don't want to say basic, but like your standard ways of operating, like email flows and, based on your product journey. And when you engaged with Andie, whether it was like a full price product sale or whether you came in during some sort of promotional period, your psychology and how you shop is going to be different. But what we see is that the customers who have already shopped with Andie and who we've already acquired, they are interested in different things than new people are. So, for example, we pretty much launch a new collection every month. And even though our company at large is still heavier in acquisition as like a % of our total, repeat customers drive more sales than acquisition when we launch new product. So they're so interested and engaged with what newness Andie has to offer, and making sure that we continue to bring that to them in a way that resonates. Again, we don't want to bring in something that's completely irrelevant for them or like doesn't really represent our brand, because they're like, why would I buy this from Andie if, this is not something that I would expect from Andie? And we see that time and time again, these seasonal collections drive up our repeat engagement so much. And they love seeing the newness from us. We also do a lot of like partnerships and collaborations where we're partnering with brands that they might love, and it really excites different parts of our audience pool. And, we've done like celebrity partnerships, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can buy this swimsuit because Mindy Kaling was in this swimsuit, and then I can be like Mindy Kaling. So whether it's just like exciting them in sort of novel new ways, but again, staying close to that core brand DNA, that core brand ethos, and not straying from that.
How many suits each person buys, like on average a year? Like it's more than one? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's a more than one. I mean, it varies. I would say that like the average swimwear purchaser is not shopping multiple times a year. Like for the most part, you have a trip or you're buying suits for the summer. You're probably buying a couple of swimsuits, not just one, but maybe like 3, 4 swimsuits.
But you
over
will
the
buy
course
them
of a
together,
year.
like right away, usually.
Yeah. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If you're like me and you're a very last minute shopper before you're going on a trip, you buy like 30 things and then you return half of them, you keep half of them, you take them on your trip. And I would say a lot of shoppers in the sort of US e-commerce space behave that way. But, you have some people who are really only shopping swim when they absolutely need it. Like they're going on a trip, maybe they're not even buying it every year. And you have a few people, we have like some incredibly loyal customers, and the Amalfi is our icon suit. And we have the black Amalfi, and we've had the black Amalfi since the day Andie launched. And we launch a new Amalfi almost every month, and they'll come in and they'll buy every single one. And, we have this color and this texture, but it's just their favorite suit. So they're going to come and buy it from us, whether they need it or not, because they don't want to miss out. So it really varies. And again, there's a lot of nuance in there based on different customer profiles. And our customer, I would say, is generally like slightly more affluent and using swim a few more times a year, or like traveling a little bit more, just given the price of our swimsuits. And so they're usually engaging with us like a couple of times over the course of a year.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many questions to you about, like how hard it is to sell a product you can sell only once or twice a year, and a lot of questions around segmentations and how you do all of these. But, we're coming here almost on time. And maybe the last thing that I will ask you here from my side is, what are your plans for the future, maybe on the personal level and also for Andie Swim? Like, where are you going from here?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I mean, I would say 2026 is already a big year for us. So we're thinking far ahead. We have a lot of exciting partnerships lined up that we're really excited to introduce into the market. And in 2025, I would say one of our big focus areas, and very relevant to the conversation we were just having, is how to increase that repeat purchaser engagement. So we're playing around with different ideas in terms of category expansion with additional apparel to help give that customer a reason to engage with us more times throughout the year. It's a lot easier said than done to create
Build
new
a bag.
categories.
Pooja,
Build a bag. Yes. So build a bag is very
What do you
much
do
at the
after the
forefront.
pool, after the beach?
Exactly. So how do you take it from the beach to the bar?
Exactly.
So we're really focused on that and trying to engage how many times and how many ways in which our existing customer base can engage with us over the course of a year. And we're really already focused on so much in terms of growth and collaborations and exciting partnerships for 2026, which is crazy because it's only March.
And what do you wish for yourself in 2025? What will be a successful moment for you?
That is a loaded question. I think we have a lot of exciting things in the works and some major projects that feel like they're all happening at the same exact time. So if we can get it all done smoothly, I'll give myself a pat on the back, because it is a tall order to be taking on what we're intending on doing in the next 4 months, but lots to come from Andie. So
Yeah. We're excited for sure. And I'm sure that some of the listeners who purchase at Andie's will have a lot of things to look for. So
yeah,
that's very, very cool. Thanks a lot for joining me and accepting my invite for this podcast. And it was a pleasure. I mean, super interesting and really exciting. I learned a couple of things for sure.
thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you guys. And thanks for watching D2C Breakdowns today. See you on the next episode. Bye.